Welcome to another edition of the Pacers Pride Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Emerson. Alongside me, as always, we're both trying to stay warm here, but Dylan, I know we got some good news today. Classes are canceled tomorrow
because sleep in tomorrow, assuming my pipes don't freeze and my car can start.
Yeah, because we're facing basically like Arctic temperatures, basically.
Negative 40?
40 something. Yeah. I saw with the wind chill. As is the life in the Midwest. But you know what?
At least we're not Chicago.
Yeah, but good news is we'll get a midweek break from classes. Thank you, President Mearns. I know you're not watching, but you know what? Don't have class tomorrow, so we can all sleep in and enjoy that. But
catch up on homework.
Yeah, that too. Realistically, that's probably what I'm going to do as well. But instead of sleep in. But you know what? We'll see what happens tomorrow. But we're not gonna dive too much we're gonna dive a lot into it. Actually, I don't know where I was going there, but obviously first thing we're gonna talk about, if somehow you're a Pacers fan and you've been living under a rock the past week and a half, this team's obviously without Victor Oladipo now. It sucks because of obviously Vic's our go-to guy in the clutch and everything, but for those of you who are still unaware, he ruptured his tendon in his quadricep. It's a non-contact injury. It was a very scary injury to watch.
Same one that Tony Parker had last year, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. And he's coming back with the Hornets, I believe. So
yeah, he's played every game this year.
Playing solid. So there is hope that Vic will come back better than ever. He had, I believe, surgery yesterday. I believe posted a nice message on social media that they played before the game yesterday versus Golden State. Just thanking everyone for the support. Obviously, we tweeted our condolences to Vic. If you haven't seen the injury, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not. I don't want to say it's gruesome, but
you can't really tell what it is. Yeah. You just kind of know that if he doesn't get right back up immediately.
Yeah,
you know that
and that's the thing. The thing I was most shocked about is we've seen Vic make all these kind of hustle plays and in his tenure with the Pacers, and he usually gets right back up, gets back on defense, offense, wherever he needs to be, but this time he didn't get up. Yeah. And it was unfortunate. He was just trying to make a play on the ball, and his knee just...
he landed awkwardly. He landed on his knee, honestly.
So, and his knees, legs, just gave out on him. Timetable I've seen is 6 to 8 months, I think.
Depends on the person.
I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on that by any means. Yeah. But I'm just gonna start right there. Dylan, just your original thoughts when you first saw it.
I mean, it kind of epitomizes the life and death, I guess, of a Pacers fan. Yeah. It's continuing the 5-year curse because 5 years ago today, or not today, but 5 years ago, was the PG injury. And 5 years, you can keep going 5 years every increment. There's been something dramatic that has happened that has derailed either a season or a franchise at some point. I think at least 20 years ago, was the Malice at the Palace kind of thing. So, but I think Vic will come back from this. I have no belief that he'll encounter any setbacks. I know he's the type of player that'll fight through anything. I know it helps that Tony Parker went through a similar thing. I think he's been in contact with Tony, or Tony's been in contact with Vic, just to kind of give him advice. I've seen the worst case scenario for this injury is somewhere where he'll be back this time next year, and then sometimes the best case scenario is he'll be ready by the start of the next season. I'm fairly certain that it's out of the question that he's nowhere near kind of come back by the time, even if we make it to the NBA Finals. I don't think he's going to be ready. Yeah.
They've already ruled him out for the year, so I mean, there's no coming back this year, unfortunately.
So, I mean, we've already faced now 14 games without Vic. We are 7-7? No, 7-6.
Yeah.
Without him, so at least we're above 500. Granted, the two recent games have been rather unfortunate in the outcomes, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Things happen for better or for worse, and you can't just give up on a season halfway through.
Oh yeah, and see, that's the thing is this Pacers team still, they're clinging on to that third spot. I think it's only by a half game right now.
Yeah.
But
the Phillies coming up.
Yeah, the Sixers, not the Phillies. But
Philly.
Oh, I thought you said the Phillies. I'm sorry. But yeah, still clinging on to that third spot. Most likely, I'm gonna say probably not gonna hold on to that spot. I guess that's where we can go with this next. Is where does this I've seen. Obviously, it was all over ESPN and everyone, analysts giving their predictions. I've heard, obviously, depending on where we fall in the rankings and everything, Stan Van Gundy says that probably we're not going to win a playoff series now, which, depending on where the team we face, is very possible, but got to have, as a Pacers fan, I think I have a bit more faith in this team than that. So, just, Dylan, where do you think this changes the balance of power in the East and in terms of where the Pacers may fall?
I am not sure. If you would have told me before or the day after the Toronto win, I would have told you maybe 5. But with the way the last 2 games have gone, it kind of worries me that they haven't really found balance in the lineup since. Mm-hmm. It depends on how long we can get a lineup that meshes well together. It doesn't help that Tyreek's been battling some injuries as well, which has kept more flux within the lineup. We've tried throwing Sumner in to no avail, which we'll get to later. I would like to see Aaron Holiday get some minutes, but realistically, I think it's at best we can hope for 5. I don't with this lineup that we have. I don't think we can hold off the 76ers or Boston. Unless something of a similar magnitude, which I'm not asking for or hoping in any way, it happens to the Sixers or the Celtics. But I think we can hold off at least the bottom of the East. Yeah, the Nets and the Heat and teams like that. I feel like we can help them off. I would hope. So I feel like we still make the playoffs, but if we fall anywhere between that 5 and 8 spot, winning a playoff series is going to be a very tall task for this team.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how well this team against the top of the East. We saw how they played against Golden State. Obviously no Tyreek in there, but we'll see. We played Boston a few more times. I think we have two more matchups against Boston, and have maybe 1 or 2 more against Milwaukee. I know I'll be at the game on February 13th, but so we'll get to see that one and see how that unfolds. But I think you're right. I think realistically, I would like to say that 5 is the lowest I see us. This is no offense to Brooklyn, Miami, or Charlotte, who currently occupy the 6, 7, and 8 spots. But Miami is right at 500. Charlotte's 1 game under, and Brooklyn's only 3 games over 500. So I don't see us taking that big of a tumble. Pacers, as it sits right now, are 32-17, which is 15 games over 500. I don't see us taking that big of a tumble to plummet that far.
And
but I don't know.
Even to that point, below that is Detroit at 21-27, Washington at 21-28, and then Orlando at 20-30. Unless there's some Miami Heat of 2 years ago level second half surge, which I don't see out of any of these teams. Atlanta down, they're all vying for draft picks already.
They're tanking for Zion, basically.
Yeah. Orlando, Washington, and Detroit. Washington is in turmoil. I don't think they know what's going on. Orlando's still young. I like the roster, but I think they're still too young to get into the 8th spot. And then Detroit has something going with Blake Griffin, but really no other supporting cast alongside him. They might be the only one that might push us out. Yeah. And then you never know with Charlotte. So I think we're in good position. Thank God we're in the East and not the West. But I think we stay in the playoffs, but I don't know how long that playoffs will last. So,
and this whole injury kind of changes perspective because, and I think with Vic in the lineup and everything going well, I thought we could contend with most teams in the East and maybe make the Eastern Conference Finals run. I know that was the case for a lot of fans, and thinking that obviously that changes things now. Don't probably see us beating a Milwaukee, a Toronto. 76ers, I highly doubt it, and Boston is kind of surging now, so they're finding their rhythm as well. So we'll see, like, when the playoff, there's still a long ways to go. Pacers still have, I think, like 32, well, I can do math real quick. 49, that's what?
There's 82 games in the season, so it's 13.
32?
I'm not a math
33,
major, so.
something like that.
I'm going to shut my mouth up before I make a fool out of myself.
30-something games left in the year. And I was actually doing some looking at the Pacers' schedule, excluding that rough stretch, which we've talked about numerous times. In March, the Pacers really don't... They face some tough teams here and there, like they have a Boston mixed in there.
Between now and then, we have a fairly easy stretch.
Yeah, and that's... I'm going to go back to what Pat Boylan said last Tuesday when we had him on the show. Granted, this was before the Vic injury, but try and stockpile wins now. So if you hit that stretch and you go, let's say, 3-5, 2-6, you can still be in pretty decent position.
Yeah.
So see where the Pacers go from here in terms of playoff seeding and everything. That'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. Next, gonna kind of continue, like most of the show, we're gonna be recapping Vic's injury and talking about how it impacts the team. So we're gonna shift to what players need to step up and just who we maybe expect to step up. Obviously, Tyreek was going to move into the starting lineup. He was dealing with a back injury in the Golden State game. That's why he didn't play, so that forced Edmund Sumner in the starting lineup, which did not go well, obviously. We'll get into the Warriors game, like you said, a bit later. But do you have a particular player in mind that you think needs to step up, or is it just, everyone just needs to elevate their game a little bit?
It's somewhat of a replace by committee kind of an approach that we can take. I mentioned this earlier. I want to see Aaron Holiday kind of fit into that shooting guard role. I know we're kind of molding him to be the Darren Collison of the future, but I think his game as of right now would be kind of well suited for that shooting guard role. I think if he's able to just be like a spot-up shooter, or if worst case kind of like a Tyreek where he just needs to just take it to the basket and hope for the best. I think that could be at least somewhat of a decent scoring option, at least in the starting lineup, and it pushes Tyreek back down to the bench where I think he's ultimately more productive. I think that would be a good role. It's just about whether Aaron Holiday is capable of fulfilling a shooting guard role and also guarding opposing shooting guards as well. I would like to see him get a shot. I would like to see Edmund Sumner get minutes. I know he had a really rough game against the Golden State, but I would still like to see him get kind of the backup minutes for that Aaron Holiday had. I think he's a really promising product. He fell in the draft because of an injury, so we don't really know his potential. He showed a lot in the preseason and in the summer league, which makes me hopeful that he can translate into the NBA. But those are probably the two biggest people that can replace Vic's exclusive role. But apart from that, you really got to hope Bojan, from that stretch when Vic was out earlier in the season, he's got to bring that level of play back. He's got to become the main scoring option. He's got to be able to shoot threes and take it on the floor and get it to the rim. Obviously, we got to have Miles step up. Miles has to be more assertive, more of a scorer. And Darren Collison, pretty much everybody on this team has to pick up a scoring load.
And that's what I think Nate McMillan and the coaching staff was saying. Just kind of have to have everyone step up their game just a little bit. We paid Miles, I think, $70 million, somewhere around that range.
Contract numbers.
$80 million in the offseason, right before the season started. So, Miles, Pacers fans, most Pacers fans, I should say, love you for your defense and what you bring.
4 years, $72 million.
$72 million, yeah. So, kind of, we're expecting you now to go out there and maybe earn your money a bit. He's definitely earned it on the defensive side of the ball. There's no question about that. We knew that, but maybe step it up a bit offensively. Going back to that, I can't remember that stretch. I think it was mid to late December.
When he was out originally?
Something like that, when he went on a really, was averaging 18 points and something like, he had a really good...
Yeah, end of December, early January.
Yeah, that stretch. When
before the mask.
Yeah, I'm not asking for that all day, every day, but maybe somewhere right around that, here and there, just can be the leading scorer some nights. We would love to see that. Obviously, you mentioned Bojan. He was the leading scorer when Vic was out. He was really aggressive in the Golden State game early on. I think he had 7 or 8 first quarter points, but kind of the team and as a whole derailed after the first quarter, or after midway through the first quarter when, Steph Curry and everyone just caught fire. But I think I agree with you. Kind of, it's going to be interesting to see what we do with the combination of Tyreek. I think Tyreek will get that shooting guard spot, and I would like to see Aaron Holiday get a bit more minutes. And then Edmund Sumner probably providing maybe the backup shooting guard. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what McMillan does with his rotations and lineups. Yeah. So definitely another aspect to this Victor Oladipo injury to keep your eye on. Mm-hmm. The last one that we're going to talk about is, I think we actually have varying opinions on this one. We brought up the trade deadline last week when we had Pat Boyle on as well, and we were all in firm agreement, I believe, last week that the Pacers shouldn't make a move, that just stay pat right where you are and see where the season takes you. But now with the Vic injury, it opens the door to possible trade scenarios. There are players out there, I've heard New York would be willing to part ways with Tim Hardaway. I don't know what they'd be asking for him. Obviously, Bradley Beal in Washington, but I wouldn't even dare try and touch that with the Wizards because they'd probably want a king's ransom for Bradley Beal. But there are players out there who the Pacers can maybe... Oh, and to just, make Pacer Twitter and Pacers fans go butt heads against each other, Melo was in Indy just a few nights ago.
He's also in New York. So
I know. Well, as soon as the headline, Melo has dinner in Indy, popped up, Pacers Twitter went into an absolute frenzy.
Yeah.
So, there's no way, I highly doubt Kevin Pritchard or anyone thinks about signing Melo, but there are some trade options, as we talked about. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a move now. I know you see otherwise, but I just want to say, I don't want to have the whole Tyreek is injured, because who knows how long, I don't know the severity of his back injury.
I think he's day-to-day.
Is he day-to-day? Okay, but
I'll double-check.
Say, he has a ankle injury that keeps him out a few weeks. I like the promise of Edmund Sumner, and I like what Aaron Holiday has shown, but I wouldn't mind also having that proven, I'm not going to even say veteran, but shooting guard who's been there and can provide a bulk of the scoring sometimes. Tim Hardaway, we've seen it. I wouldn't, wouldn't mind seeing and calling the Knicks, seeing what they'd potentially want, but if the asking price is too high, then don't make the trade, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Pacers make a move depending on what they'd have to give up, but I know you are still one to stay. We talked about this before the show a little bit, and you just feel like they should stay pat.
Yeah, I don't think this is a big... If it was a career questionable injury, then I would be more likely to see what we could do. I mentioned it. This isn't a long-term solution. This isn't a long-term problem, so we don't need a short-term solution.
That's fair.
So like I said, I'm just going to go back to the Melo thing. If we sign Melo, I'm officially dropping this podcast, deleting it off of Twitter, and I'm becoming a Lakers fan. Melo is a team killer through and through.
That is one thing we can agree on.
If Melo joins the team, sorry, you're not seeing me anymore. But in all seriousness, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he was just in Indy for some reason. I don't know when was that? When did he come in? He might have been visiting something like Boogie or someone on Monday. That's what I don't know. It's like the
Yeah.
Warriors were in town and he visited somebody and had dinner with like Steph or Katie or somebody.
Who knows?
Maybe to talk about joining the Warriors.
Oh
or
my
something.
God, probably.
I feel like that is a more likely scenario than the Pacers. I feel like he wouldn't want to join the Pacers. He probably wants a ring more than he wants to be with Indy. But in all seriousness, I think making a trade really wouldn't help out in the scenario, because if you look at our likely trading prospects, we offer right now with players without expiring contracts. We have DC, Thaddeus Young, and then Corey Joseph. And for future capital that we can offer. Probably the only one people would want would be Aaron Holiday. TJ, but no one probably wants TJ leave. Maybe Ike, but that would probably be a throw-in.
I was thinking that teams, like especially if I'm the Knicks and Pacers come calling about Tim Hardaway, as a Pacers fan, I wouldn't want to do this, but teams are probably going to want Sabonis.
Yeah, I don't.
And see, that's the thing. As a Pacers fan, you
don't blow up Sabonis.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is,
because then you go from having Victor Oladipo and Sabonis to neither in one season.
Yeah. That's just the thing is, I think Sabonis is so young and he's shown so much promise that if you do give a call to the Wizards, if you do give a call to the Knicks and want either Tim Hardaway or Bradley Beal, they're like, all right, you're giving us Sabonis, and that's when Kevin Pritchard should hang up the phone.
Yeah. And like, in my opinion, trades are so one-sided nowadays in the NBA. Very rarely does both teams benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking, let's break down the scenario. If we're talking Tim Hardaway from the Knicks, I don't know if they want Sabonis because they have Porzingis, so they probably wouldn't want another forward. I would think they would want. They would probably more likely would want either a package with, say, Holiday, McDermott, and then a first-round pick. I could see them wanting, and then all of that just for Tim Hardaway, who I'm not sure what his contract status, if he's expiring at the end of the year or not.
I looked into it. He has a few years, I think 2 years left, because he just few years back signed like a 4 years, 70
He's on a big contract.
$million. Yeah, it's I think about $18 million a year or something like that.
But we have the cap space to absorb him. We have the cap space to absorb virtually anybody in the NBA, minus maybe Anthony Davis and his Supermax extension. Hey, let's go after Anthony Davis. We're talking trades.
That's on. I was sarcastically gonna bring it up.
But yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Oh God,
New Orleans is gonna want Sabonis, Turner, and then a first-round pick for Anthony Davis. I guarantee it. So let's just drop Anthony Davis from any potential Indy prospects. But in all regards, I don't think we make a trade just because we would lose too much in return for would essentially be very little, and then and whatever prospect we get back would be obsolete in 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
So,
as far as Tim Hardaway goes, he would be an unrestricted. He has 2 years left on his deal, and then in the summer of the offseason in 2021, he has a player option. Okay. So he'd be a free agent and could be an unrestricted free agent in 2021. But he's making around $18 million a year.
And then Vic's making, I think, 20, and he's also under contract till 2021.
Yeah. So I
don't know. You need to deal Tyreek, or you would need to keep Tim Hardaway, which is a headache, I think, would just enter Kevin Pritchard's mind. So,
yeah, from what I've heard, they haven't ruled. They said between Nate McMillan and Kevin Pritchard, they would look into it. The trade deadline, I think, is February, the first week
before the All-Star break of
February.
Because they didn't want players to think about the trade deadline over All-Star break.
Yeah, so I believe it's like the first week of February 7th, 8th, something like that. But so Pacers have until then to think if they want to make a trade. Obviously, if they do between now and the trade deadline, we'll be all over it, covering it for you, as well as Pacers Twitter will probably go once again, butt heads, because no one can agree on anything nowadays.
We'll have the extreme of both sides.
Oh, yeah. But we're actually going to get into the games now, because the Pacers, in the game where Vic left, they were playing a formidable opponent in the Toronto Raptors, a team they just couldn't seem to beat so far in the year, but they were 0-2 against them, but they somehow were able, without Vic, to hold off Toronto and ended up winning the game 110-106. This was a huge game for Thaddeus Young, and this is why I think he's going to be probably the guy to lead this team. I'm not going to say in terms of scoring, but I think we've known he's kind of been the vocal leader in the David West, basically, back in those Eastern Conference Finals days. So the Pacers, like I said, were able to hold off Toronto. Thad finished with 23 points, 15 boards, I think was 1 rebound shy of tying his career high. Had 7 offensive rebounds when he played phenomenal. Yeah. And they were able to hold off Toronto. Granted, Kawhi Leonard did not play, and neither did OG Anunoby. So Toronto was a little shorthanded, but I mean, without Vic, Dylan, this was still a very impressive win to even hold off Toronto, because we saw in the last game the Pacers had
17?
Something, almost a 20-point lead and ended up blowing it. But this time they were able to hold Toronto off. Yeah,
it was a good win. It's a win that will be very welcome sight going forward, just so that we took a game against Toronto. I'm not. Do we play them?
I think that was
game series.
I think that was it. I think we played them only 3 times.
Yeah, this year. No, it's either 2 or 4. I think. Oh no, we did play them 3 times.
Yeah, I think it's only 3. I could be wrong though. I don't remember us playing them again.
Played them in December 19th. Played them January 6th and 23rd. Okay. Yep. So this was their last meeting with Toronto. We went 1-3 against them.
1-2.
1-2. Oh god. So many numbers. So 1-3, at least we took one. You'd like to have a winning record against your opponents, but you would do what you can do. But it's still good to get a win against one of the top echelon teams, just to look forward, look back at. Even if we potentially could play them in the playoffs, we can look back at this game, especially that it was a game without Vic, and see how we did it, even though they didn't have Kawhi and OG Anunoby. So, I mean, you got to take what you can get, even if your stars are out. So it was a good win to get.
Yeah, and Miles Turner a double-double, 13 and 10 with 4 blocks. Collison, for all the Collison haters out there, because they're those out there too who want to get rid of. You can't. No matter what, you'll find every. Yeah, I know, and they want to start stuff. But Darren had 17 and 8 assists. Did not shoot the ball that well, 5 of 13, but he did get shot 7 of 8 from the foul line, which the Pacers as a whole shot 21 of 25, which thank God we're starting to figure out how to hit our free throws, because that was a problem early on. Toronto shot 12 of 39 from 3, really didn't shoot it well at all.
It was a battle of who could make the least amount of shots, essentially.
Yeah.
Toronto shot 41%, we shot 43%, so.
Neither team shot it all too well, but at the end of the day, we had Thad, who was just everywhere. I know he made...
It was essentially it wasn't even Toronto versus Indiana. Yeah, it was Serge Ibaka versus Thaddeus Young. So.
And I remember I was watching. I think I was able to get off work. Yeah, this was the game since Victor went down. I remember being at work. I think you texted me, and then shortly after that, my phone with all my sports notifications started to go off with obviously the Vic injury. I was able to get home and watch, I think, most of the fourth quarter. And it was basically, like you said, Thad versus Serge, and Thad ended up getting the last laugh, and they were able to hold him off and get a great win. So, like you said, we only went 1-2 against Toronto, but it's still nice to get that one win, and if we do happen to see them in the playoffs, I don't think we're going to fall to the 7 or 8, like we talked about. But if we manage to win one, we could maybe see Toronto in the playoffs, and can look back on this game and see how well we played. So after that, the Pacers, you thought, could kind of, they played a half without Vic, and they were able to hold off one of the best teams in the East. So you're thinking going into Memphis with a team that I think had lost 8 in a row, something like that. Pacers kind of had the edge and everything, but they just could not really get it together. I watched all of this game, unfortunately, just hanging my head in shame because Pacers, I don't know, they couldn't.
It was just a struggle offensively.
And we talked about this before the show a little bit. I will give credit to Memphis because they are right up there with us in terms of defensive teams in the league. I believe, they don't have the stats in here, but in terms of points allowed, I think Memphis is, like I said, right behind us in terms of that. So huge props to them for holding us to only 103 points. And I was curious to see what you think. Do you think, like, the combination of, well, one, not having Vic obviously impacts the game, but with such a huge win over Toronto, do you think that kind of had a hangover into this game? Or
I'm not sure if it was a hangover or just like we need to regroup kind of thing with Vic being gone. They kind of just said, Vic, we know Vic is going to be a part of our team, but we can't lose to the Grizzlies kind of thing. And this kind of was like a shell shock to show how much Vic means to them, plus how much they really need to focus and then turn their attention, because now teams don't have to focus solely on stopping Vic. They can go to the next option, and that has a trickle-down effect. So if Bojan, who was the product of Vic being there, was kind of ignored to some extent, now is thrusted into the defensive focus for the Grizzlies and other teams. And then it goes down the line. Now Miles Turner is going to get more attention. Now Sabonis is going to get more attention. You see, Sabonis had one of his worst games of the season. He finished 3 of 7 from the field and only 11 points and only 8 rebounds, which is 8 rebounds for Sabonis is somewhat of a disappointment nowadays.
Yeah.
And just like that, they did not shoot very well. Bojan and Miles pretty much, well, the whole starting lineup except for Thad shot the ball pretty well. And it's just the bench really seemed to struggle. Yeah. Sabonis was 3 of 7. TJ Leaf was 1 of 2. Doug McDermott 1 of 3. Aaron Holiday 3 of 11. Corey Joseph 3 of 8. So we're just missing the bench production, and plus we just couldn't seem to stop the Grizzlies. They shot the ball 48%, almost 50% from the field, which is something you never really want an opposing team to achieve. So it was just a struggle on both ends of the game, both ends of the court, and I think it's just one of those adapt games that we have to go through, and I think it'll be better for us in the long run to show that we're not who we were with Vic. So
yeah, like I said, I was able to watch all of this game. I think it was Born Ready to Pod, their Twitter, I think, after the game, was scrolling through, and they said how entering this game, I believe it was the rumors of Mike Conley and Marc Gasol could be possibly traded. So after the game, I think they put out Mike Conley was auditioning for the Pacers in this game he went off. He was their leading scorer with 22 points, 8 of 13.
Double-double with 22 points and 11 assists.
Yeah, and huge credit also Jaren Jackson out of Michigan State. I know he's starting to mold into his own. He had 20 points and 8 of 14. Then Marc Gasol there was a stretch, I believe, in the third, it may have been I think it was in the third quarter, that he just scored, I think, 6 or 8 straight points, some 2 threes, and a post move or whatever on, I think, Miles or Sabonis, whoever was guarding him down low. He kind of single-handedly took over the game. This game was really, like I said, kind of frustrating to watch because the Pacers, they would be down by 7 or 8. They would crawl back, maybe tie the game or get within 1 or 2, and then Memphis would just make a run again. So it was one of those games where the Pacers just couldn't figure out things offensively, and it was, like you said, just one of those games where you can't take a game for granted in the NBA because they're all professionals. They're all doing the same things.
Yeah, like what Pat said.
Yeah.
Even if they're the Chicago Bulls, they're still filled with athletes.
Yeah, exactly. Superior. So this was just one of those nights, and unfortunately, Pacers are going to have to learn to play without Vic for the long haul because they still got 30-plus games left. So we're going to see where they go from here. But it didn't get any better, unfortunately, and because, granted, with Vic being out, the NBA world doesn't feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
And that could not have been more stated when the defending champion Golden State Warriors came into town, and I was able to catch, I believe, the first 5 to 7 minutes of this game. I was on my break at work, and I saw it was on. I'm like, I'll turn it on, see how well they competed. And it seemed like from the time I stopped watching is when the Pacers just absolutely fell apart. Because I think I went back to work when it was tied, or it wasn't tied. I think the Warriors had like a 4-point lead or something. I'm like, all right, we're competing with Golden State. And then everything absolutely fell apart. Enter Steph Curry, who, just can't seem to miss.
When you go 6 of 8 from 3-point line, you're just on another level.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who's kind of been critical of Steph Curry, said all he can do is shoot, but I mean the guy is just a phenomenal shooter, and you can literally be staring face to face with your hand right in his face, and he'll still make it in front of you. So
I think the key in the game lies in the box score. First quarter, Golden State 40, Indiana 22. Second quarter 29-26. Third quarter 32-31, and fourth quarter 31-21.
Yeah, I mean,
Pacers did not win a single quarter.
Like you said, though, we kind of in those middle quarters kept it close, but I mean the first quarter and then the fourth quarter Golden State knows how to especially end games. They're one of the best fourth quarter teams I think I've ever seen. And
they flip another switch.
Yeah, this game was without. They didn't have Draymond Green in this game.
Yeah, he was resting.
So, I mean, but that didn't matter. Steph Curry went off 26 points. Boogie Cousins had 22. His first real.
The second game back, I think.
Statement game that he was back. Kevin Durant only had 16 points, and the Warriors won by 32 points. Yeah. So that just says how dominant this Warriors team was. I mean, if you look at the box score for the Pacers, it just...
This is come back to the Edmund Sumner thing.
Yeah, and this was kind of... I will give Edmund Sumner a huge pass for this game, considering he was probably being guarded by it was most likely Klay Thompson, who is one of the best two-way guards we have in this league. Was only 1 of 10, and this was his first NBA. He started the last game last year.
Oh yeah,
but
because then when we rested.
Yeah, but his his second start, first I guess you could say meaningful start of his career, and just
1 of 10,
like you said, was just thrown into the fire. Here, go out and guard Klay Thompson and have him.
He's only the guy who set a record for most points in a quarter already this season. So.
Yeah, and just Klay Thompson also had a history of torching the Pacers because he scored 60 points in less than
3 dribbles or 10 dribbles or something.
Yeah, and he scored in less than 3 quarters. Speaking of Klay Thompson, he had 16. Just had
casual,
a quiet game, but Kevon Looney for them had a really solid game, 15 points off the bench. Like I said, you look at the Pacers box score, and it just really wasn't that pretty. I guess the one positive you can have from this game is Aaron Holiday. He was 4 of 8 and made 4 of 5 from 3, so that proving that, once again, he's a really darn good shooter.
Yeah.
But, I mean, besides that, mean, Miles was the leading scorer with 16, had six rebounds. No one, Sabonis struggled mightily guarding Boogie Cousins, because he can just, you can name him
Boogie and Looney.
Yeah, so I expected this. I'm going to be 100% honest. I expected us to lose this game pretty bad, especially not knowing that we did not have Vic. I wasn't prepared to lose by 32.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I thought Tyreek would be in there and he could maybe score a little bit more. I was not anticipating Edmund Sumner starting, but basically any.
It is what it is.
Yeah, to this game, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
Golden State showed up, Indiana Pacers did not, so.
Yeah, besides Aaron Holiday, the one, I guess, overall bright spot was the support that the Pacers, and not only the Pacers, but the Warriors showed for Vic as well. I think they had a play for Vic.
Yeah.
They shirts that everyone in the stadium got. They were wearing them during pregame.
Yeah.
So that was a good sign to see, especially a good sign of sportsmanship from the Warriors. But I mean, just the way more talented team. They won 10 in a row coming into this game.
Most likely going to win the national the championship.
Yeah, I mean, just pencil them in the finals probably. Yeah. The Thunder or Rockets can maybe make a case to beat them. You're just saying no.
With Boogie Cousins now, it looks daunting.
I hope that someone can maybe give them at least give them a run for their money like the Rockets did last year. But we'll see where that goes. But yeah, the Pacers currently on a little 2-game losing streak. Still the only team, have not lost 3 in a row yet, and that kind of is a really good transition to where we're going to start previewing this week's games. The Pacers will play tomorrow night against the Wizards on ESPN, one of the nationally televised games that they have. So, this will be. Is it in Washington?
Yeah, it's
in Washington.
We have a 4-game road trip.
Oh yeah, this does start a little bit of a road trip.
4-game road trip.
So obviously gonna have to deal with Bradley Beal. But I still think the Pacers. You've talked about it a little bit. The Wizards are kind of the definition of dysfunctional.
Yeah.
I think we still pull out a win. I think now that John Wall is not there, I think you kind of let Bradley Beal do his thing. Then just kind of control everyone else. I'm going to hate to bring up this name, I know, because he went to IU, but Thomas Bryant has played solid basketball for him. So Miles may have... I think Miles should be able to, but he can quietly get his every now and then. But I think the Pacers pull away. I think these games are against inferior competition. They're going to start to be a bit closer since we don't have Vic anymore. But I'm predicting a win.
Just a side note, Tyreek is out for the Wizards game. That has been confirmed. He will not play against Washington. I'm not sure if he'll be back during this road trip. I would think he'll be back for Orlando or maybe Miami. I don't think he'll play Orlando. So that might factor into it a little bit. But
is that on? I was curious.
It said out on ESPN. It says he is out for the Wizards game.
And it says day to day.
Yeah, but if you look, it says it has been listed as out for the Wizards against Washington Wizards. At least for me, it said that.
I don't know, but I trust that. I mean, and kind of so.
Yeah, Evans is listed as out for Wednesday's game against the Wizards.
Okay.
I
see. Like you click on his name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So that's gonna be a little bit of an issue. So I don't know if we go back to Sumner. I would like to see Sumner get another chance against a easier opponent than
easier. Maybe when Sumner's on the offensive end.
Yeah, but he still has to go against Bradley Beal, which is not gonna be easy. But he's not Klay Thompson, so I mean, he's got some difference there. But for the Wizards, at least injury-wise, they will be without Devin Robinson, Sam Decker, and Jan Mahimi. They're all day-to-day. Decker and Mahimi, at least, are day-to-day as of January 29th. So that would make me believe that they will not see the floor on Wednesday, but that could change. That could be game-time decisions. But in the end, I think Pacers do come out with a victory against the Wizards. Like I said, I just think the Wizards are too dysfunctional to really put up a fight. Lord knows what John Wall's is doing right now.
I was just sitting back and smiling.
Yeah,
probably.
Honestly, seeing that he has no market for him whatsoever. So, I mean, I think we match up well at every position. Thomas Bryant's their leading rebounder at 5 and at almost 6 a game, which is not the greatest numbers. So I feel like Sabonis or Miles is going to have their way in the inside. So as long as we rely on them, and then once they cheat inside, you just toss it out to McDermott or Bojan, and then clean up the mess. So
I look for probably Bojan to have I hope. I'm not saying a 20-point game, but I mean that's definitely within the realm of possibility. I think he can maybe start to, like you said, we kind of have an easy little bit of a stretch coming before that brutal just March schedule.
Words are tough.
Yeah, words are hard, but so maybe look for him to get going, and let's hope that the Pacers can get back on the winning track and still not lose 3 in a row.
Yeah.
This next one, the Pacers will have a back-to-back on Thursday, going from Washington to Orlando. We talked about this one before the show, and I'll let you go first on this one. Cause
I wasn't feeling very confident.
I'm going to say it's probably news Pacers fans don't want to hear. But
I'll let
you give your thoughts.
I was thinking a 1-2 road trip just because I'm not sure, especially with Evans out. I don't know how well they'll do. If we need it all depends on what Emnon Sumner and Aaron Holiday really do in their absence. But I could easily see them dropping either one or both of these games. I don't want to see it happen, but I just have this gut feeling that we go 1-2 during this road trip. And I think the 2 starts with the Magic game. I just think they're a really young talent, and they can take advantage of a beaten-up Pacers team coming back on a back-to-back. Especially with Vukovic. I just don't understand why Miles has trouble with bigger centers, so I think Vukovic stands a little bit of having an advantage against Miles Turner. Hope it isn't so, but if history repeats itself, Miles tends to struggle against bigger and more stronger centers in the NBA, so I think the Magic take this one.
Yeah, I'm guessing we've played the Magic.
I don't believe so. Oh, yeah, we did. We beat them 112-90.
Yeah, on December 7th, and is that the only...
No, we play them 4 times. We play them now, and then...
So we see them after this game 2 more times, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we win this one.
Granted, they have lost 3 straight.
And obviously...
And they play the Thunder.
Yeah. Nikola Vucevic is really someone to keep your eye on, as well as Aaron Gordon. Let's hope he doesn't put anyone on a massive poster, but we know he's a phenomenal dunker, and I think really those 2 are...
And then you got Bamba, you got...
I forgot about Mohamed Bamba, honestly.
What's his name? The dude from Florida State that they drafted 2
years Jonathan ago. Isaac?
Yeah, he's also a good small forward for them. They just have a lot of good young pieces.
Terrence Ross could maybe... I don't know, exactly...
Let me look at
I was about to say, I don't know, who's their leading scorer.
Their leading scorer is Vukovic with 20 a game. Then it's Aaron Gordon with 15, Fournier with 14, Terrence Ross with almost 14, DJ Augustine with 11, and then Isaac, Simmons, Bamba, and so forth.
So they only have really, I was thinking, Gordon and Vucevic can maybe hurt you down low, but let's hope. Maybe the Pacers can win the 3-point battle in this one. And so, they like to score buckets down low.
They do shoot 34% from 3, which is not ideal.
So maybe Pacers can win the 3-point battle with McDermott, Bojan, Miles. Can maybe even stretch out the floor a little bit, yeah. And and they're 20-30. So I think we talk about trap games a lot.
Yeah.
This could be maybe a trap game for the Pacers, but I still think they squeak. I'm not gonna say squeak out a win. I could see the Pacers winning maybe by 10 or something like that, and maybe pulling away late. But let's hope they keep the winning streak. Could maybe develop a little bit of a winning streak going here, because they will finish the road trip against the Miami Heat. And
if there is one game that they drop, I feel like this would be the game.
This will just, although I don't know if you saw, did you see the Derrick Jones?
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I heard it was not good.
It was pretty bad.
He escaped with just bone bruises, so there was nothing broken.
Which I don't see how. The dude I thought just absolutely destroyed his shoulder when he landed on it. But so he won't be playing. But obviously got to deal with the crafty veteran that is D Wade.
Goran Dragic will be out.
Goran Dragic is out?
Yeah. Okay. He will be available shortly after the All-Star break.
Okay.
It says Tyler Johnson's listed as day-to-day. He's questionable for the Wednesday game against the Bulls, so I don't know if he'll be back Saturday, but that's another player to look out for. But yeah, Goran Dragic and Derrick Jones are the big ones.
Yeah, and gonna have to deal with Hassan on the rebounds, like we talked about with maybe Vucevic. Miles kind of struggles with centers, or opposing centers, so especially on the rebound battle, let's hope that Thad can maybe kind of help with that as well. I still think that maybe my opinion changes depending on what I see from these two games in Washington and Orlando, but I'm still going to say the Pacers pull out a win. I think that they're capable of doing it, and I think Nate McMillan and this coaching staff will get it together. He's already told them, look, the Vic injury is bad, but we've still got more basketball to play. We're still fighting for a playoff spot. And he's got to rally the troops, and I think he'll do a great job of that. And hopefully get this team on a 3-game winning streak, in my opinion. I hope I'm right.
I could probably be convinced that the Orlando game will be a win, but I don't have a good feeling about this Miami game. It is the last one we play against them. We've already won the series.
Okay.
So that is good news. So even if we drop this one, but just coming off of this is in the middle game of the road trip. After this, we have we go to New Orleans then on that Monday. So
then another back to. Oh my God!
This is on Saturday.
No, I'm looking at the Monday and Tuesday game this upcoming week.
We have to go from New Orleans all the way back home for L.A. Hey, Lance, homecoming.
Hey, but Lance better get a tribute video. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know what they'll do.
Lance better get a tribute video.
But back to Miami, they have a relatively easy schedule coming up to us. They just come off wins against Cleveland and New York, some really cupcake teams.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what their schedule is before us. Stalling, loading. Okay, so they play Chicago on Wednesday, so they have a really easy stretch. So they have Cleveland, New York, Chicago. Then they kind of, their stretch starts now. They play Oklahoma City on Friday at home. Then they get the Pacers. Then they have their Western Conference road trip minus one team. They go at Portland, at Sacramento, at Golden State, at Denver, at Dallas, and then at Philly.
Rip.
Yeah. So
wait, so you said they played a game that Friday the 1st?
Yeah, so they are on a back-to-back.
So they'd be on a back-to-back?
But it is both their home. So they get Oklahoma City first and then us second.
Okay, so maybe wear out their energy in the second night, but that wasn't the case in the Memphis game because the Memphis was on a back-to-back and just they beat us. So we'll see where the Pacers go from here. Obviously, we had a lot to talk about. Half the show probably being the Vic injury and what goes for it, but just Vic, get feeling better. Obviously,
don't rush it.
Yeah, don't rush anything back. Team will continue to rally around you and hopefully just continue
come
to
back stronger and better than ever.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was Reggie Miller. when he tweeted out, "We have the technology. We will rebuild him," or something like that.
Give him like robotic legs. I wouldn't mind.
Can we squeak a clause in the NBA rulebook that allows that to just make him
Cyber Depot?
Yeah, I mean, but we will be back. The reason we're having a show on a Tuesday is because we don't have yet access to the studio on weekends. But I mean, hey,
we're not supposed to be in here. No,
but I mean, you know what? No one's using it, so we thought we'd sneak in. But we should be back. We're trying to get back on our regular Sunday schedule. We'll keep you up to date with that on our Twitter as well. But here's to hoping that the Pacers get on a little bit of a win streak starting tomorrow night. But until our next show and the next Pacers game, go Pacers.